Officer James Miller hated working the late shift in this part of town. He drove his police car slowly down Oak Street, looking for any reason to stop someone. The streetlights made shadows on the empty roads. He was tired and angry about being assigned to this neighborhood again. When he saw the blue sedan roll through a stop sign, he turned on his lights right away. The car pulled over quickly. Officer Miller got out, adjusting his belt and touching his gun to make sure it was there. He didn't need it, but feeling it made him feel stronger. Inside the car was Tasha Washington. She was coming home from her job at the hospital where she worked as a nurse. She had worked a double shift and was very tired. Tasha saw the police lights and felt worried. She had heard stories from friends about bad things happening during traffic stops. She put both hands on the steering wheel where the officer could see them. She took a deep breath to stay calm. Officer Miller came to her window. He didn't smile. "License and registration," he said in a cold voice. He didn't tell her why he stopped her. Tasha spoke in a polite voice. "Good evening, officer. May I reach into my purse for my wallet?" Officer Miller just nodded. He watched as she carefully took out her license and registration. His face changed when he saw her name. "You live on Pine Street." "That's not in this neighborhood," he said, sounding suspicious. "Yes, sir. I'm on my way home from Memorial Hospital. I work there as a nurse. I just finished a 16-hour shift," Tasha explained. The officer looked at her uniform. She was still wearing her blue hospital scrubs with her name tag. But instead of believing her, he seemed more angry. "Step out of the car," he ordered. "May I ask why, officer?" Tasha asked, still being respectful. "Don't question me. Get out of the car now." His voice got louder. Tasha slowly opened her door and stepped out. She stood straight and calm. What Officer Miller didn't know was that before becoming a nurse, Tasha had served 8 years as a Navy SEAL. She was one of the first women to complete the training. Her calm manner came from years of handling dangerous situations. "Turn around and put your hands on the car," Officer Miller said. "Sir, I don't understand why I'm being treated this way. I just rolled through a stop sign. I apologize for that," Tasha said. Something about her calm voice made Officer Miller more angry. "You people always think you know the law better than police," he said. Tasha stayed quiet, not wanting to make things worse, but when she turned to face the car as ordered, Officer Miller suddenly slapped her across the face. "That's to teach you some respect," he said. The slap echoed in the quiet street. For a moment, everything was still. Officer Miller expected Tasha to cry or yell. Instead, she turned slowly to face him. Her eyes were clear and focused. In one smooth movement, Tasha blocked his arm as he raised it again. She didn't hit him back. She just stopped his hand in midair. Her grip was like iron. "Officer Miller, I need you to calm down," she said in a steady voice. "You've just assaulted me, which is against the law. I am not resisting arrest. I am not threatening you, but I will defend myself if necessary." Officer Miller tried to pull his arm away, but couldn't break her hold. For the first time, he looked scared. "How do you know my name?" he asked, his voice shaking a little. "It's on your name tag," Tasha said. "And now I'd like you to call your supervisor. We have a situation that needs addressing." What Officer Miller didn't realize yet was that a car had stopped across the street. The driver had seen everything and was recording with their phone. The blue light of the police car and the streetlights made everything clear on video. Officer Miller was about to learn a hard lesson about making assumptions and abusing his power. And Tasha Washington was about to show him what real training and discipline looked like. Officer Miller felt his face get hot with anger and shame. No one had ever stopped him like this before. His hand hurt from where Tasha held it. He tried again to pull away. "Let go of me right now, or I'll arrest you for assaulting an officer," he threatened. Tasha kept her grip firm but not painful. "Sir, there's a difference between self-defense and assault. I'm just stopping you from hitting me again." She looked straight into his eyes. "I'm going to let go now. Please step back so we can talk calmly." When she released his wrist, Officer Miller stepped back. His hand moved toward his gun, but he stopped when Tasha spoke again. "Think carefully about what you do next," she said quietly. "Everything that's happening is being recorded." For the first time, Officer Miller noticed the person across the street holding up a phone. He also remembered the camera on his own police car. His stomach dropped as he realized his actions were all on video. "You have no right to be in this neighborhood," he said, trying to sound in control again. "I have every right to drive on a public road," Tasha answered. "And you had no right to slap me. That's assault." A second police car pulled up behind them. An older officer stepped out. His name tag said Sergeant Davis. He walked over with a confused look. "What's going on here, Miller?" he asked. Before Officer Miller could speak, Tasha said, "This officer stopped me for rolling through a stop sign. Then he ordered me out of my car and slapped me across the face. I defended myself without hurting him." Sergeant Davis looked shocked. "Is this true, Miller?" Officer Miller started to deny it, but then remembered the videos. "She was disrespectful," he mumbled. "I have it all on video," called the person from across the street. They walked closer, still holding their phone. Sergeant Davis sighed deeply. "Ma'am, I'm very sorry about this. Could you tell me your name?" "Tasha Washington. I'm a nurse at Memorial Hospital. Before that, I served 8 years as a Navy SEAL." Both officers looked surprised. Officer Miller's face turned pale. "A woman can't be a SEAL," he said without thinking. Tasha reached slowly into her pocket and pulled out her military ID card. "I was part of the first group of women to complete the training. I served in 3 combat zones and trained other special forces in hand-to-hand combat." Sergeant Davis looked at her ID, then handed it back with respect in his eyes. "Ms. Washington, I deeply apologize for my officer's behavior. This is completely unacceptable." He turned to Officer Miller. "Give me your badge and gun. You're suspended as of right now." Officer Miller started to argue but stopped when he saw his sergeant's serious face. He handed over his badge and gun, his hands shaking with anger. "This isn't fair," he muttered. "You're believing her over me just because." "Because there's video evidence," Sergeant Davis cut him off. "And because assaulting a civilian is never acceptable police work." The person who had been recording came closer. "I sent the video to the local news station already," they said. "They asked me to email it to them." Officer Miller's face went from red to white. His career might be over because of one moment of lost control. Sergeant Davis turned to Tasha. "Ms. Washington, we'll need you to come to the station to make a formal statement. I promise you this will be handled properly." Tasha nodded. "I understand police work is difficult, but there's no excuse for what happened here." As she spoke, 2 more police cars arrived. Word was spreading fast. Tasha looked at Officer Miller, who now seemed small and afraid. She felt no joy in his trouble, only sadness that it had come to this. "The hardest lesson I learned in the SEALs," she said to him quietly, "was that real strength isn't about forcing others to respect you. It's about having enough self-control to respect yourself." Officer Miller couldn't meet her eyes, but somewhere deep inside, her words hit home. This night would change many lives, and the real story was just beginning. By morning, the video was everywhere. People on TV talked about it. People online shared it. Everyone saw Officer Miller slap Tasha, and everyone saw how she stopped his second hit without hurting him. Tasha woke up to her phone ringing nonstop. Friends, family, and even news reporters wanted to talk to her. She turned her phone off and made a cup of tea. She needed time to think. At the police station, Chief Roberts called an emergency meeting. All officers had to come, even those not on duty. The room was full and very quiet when he walked in. "By now, I'm sure you've all seen the video," Chief Roberts said. His voice was serious. "This is not how we train our officers to act. This is not what our department stands for." He looked around the room. Some officers looked down at their hands. Others nodded in agreement. Officer Miller has been suspended without pay while we investigate. But this is bigger than one officer. This is about trust. The people in our city need to trust us. In the back row, Sergeant Davis raised his hand. Chief, I was there last night. Ms. Washington handled herself with amazing control. She could have hurt Officer Miller badly, but she only stopped him from hitting her again. Chief Roberts nodded. I've watched the video 20 times. She showed the kind of control we expect from our officers. Meanwhile, at his small apartment, Officer Miller sat alone. His phone kept buzzing with messages, most of them angry. His mother had called crying, asking how he could do such a thing. His girlfriend had texted that she needed some space. He felt like his whole life was falling apart. He thought about blaming Tasha or the person who took the video. But deep down, he knew this was his fault. His doorbell rang. When he opened the door, he found reporters with cameras. He quickly shut the door and pulled the curtains closed. Across town, Mayor Wilson was having an emergency meeting with her staff. This is a crisis for our city, she said. People are angry. They're demanding action. We need to respond quickly. Her assistant nodded. The video has over 5 million views already. People are organizing a protest for this afternoon. Mayor Wilson thought for a moment. Find out who this woman is. I want to meet her. And I want to announce changes to our police training today. Back at her small house, Tasha finally turned her phone back on. She had more than 200 missed calls and messages. One was from the mayor's office, asking for a meeting. Tasha took a deep breath. She never wanted to be famous. She never wanted to be on the news. She had left the Navy to have a quiet life as a nurse, helping people in a different way. But now she had a chance to make real change. Maybe her training could help police officers learn better ways to handle tough situations. She called the mayor's office and agreed to the meeting. That afternoon, as Tasha drove to City Hall, she passed a large group of people holding signs. The signs said things like, "Justice now," and "Respect our rights." Some people recognized her car and cheered as she passed. Inside City Hall, Mayor Wilson greeted Tasha warmly. "Ms. Washington, thank you for coming. I can't imagine how difficult this time must be for you." Tasha nodded. "I'm still processing everything. I just want something good to come from this." Mayor Wilson led her into a conference room where Police Chief Roberts was waiting. Also, there was Dr. James, who ran the police academy. "Ms. Washington," said Chief Roberts, "I want to personally apologize for what happened to you. It was wrong, and we take full responsibility." Tasha looked at the 3 people watching her. They had power to make real changes. She took a deep breath. "I don't want Officer Miller's life ruined," she said, surprising them. "What I want is training. Better training for all officers." Dr. James leaned forward. "What kind of training do you suggest?" Tasha thought about her years as a SEAL. "The most important thing I learned wasn't how to fight. It was how to stay calm under pressure. How to think clearly when everything is chaos. That's what saved my life many times." The 3 leaders looked at each other, then back at Tasha. "Would you be willing to help us?" Mayor Wilson asked. "Help us create a new training program." Tasha hadn't expected this, but as she thought about it, a plan began to form in her mind. Tasha stood in front of 30 police officers at the training center. 1 week had passed since the incident. The room was quiet. Some officers looked curious. Others looked unhappy about being there. "My name is Tasha Washington," she began. "I'm a nurse at Memorial Hospital. Before that, I was a Navy SEAL for 8 years." She saw some doubtful looks. She was used to that. "I'm not here to criticize you or your work. I'm here because we all want the same thing, to keep people safe, including yourselves." Chief Roberts stood up. "Ms. Washington is here at my request. For the next month, she'll lead special training sessions on staying calm under pressure." A hand went up. It was Officer Parker, known for being outspoken. "With all respect, ma'am, you've never been a police officer. You don't know what it's like on these streets." Tasha nodded. "You're right. I've never been a police officer, but I've been in situations where making the wrong move meant people died, including me. She rolled up her sleeve, showing a long scar on her arm. This was from a mission in a place I can't name. My team was surrounded. We had to stay calm and think clearly to get out alive. The room was silent now. Every officer was listening. Today we're going to start with breathing. It sounds simple, but it's the foundation of staying calm. For the next hour, Tasha taught them breathing techniques used by special forces. By the end, even Officer Parker seemed impressed. Across town, Officer Miller sat in his lawyer's office. His future looked bleak. "The department wants to fire you," his lawyer said. And Ms. Washington could still press criminal charges for assault. Miller put his head in his hands. "My whole life is over because of one mistake." The lawyer looked at him closely. "There might be another option. Ms. Washington is running a new training program. I've heard she's asked about you." Miller looked up, surprised. "Why would she care about me?" "I don't know, but it might be your only chance to save your career." That evening, Tasha was leaving the training center when Chief Roberts stopped her. "Today went better than I expected," he said. Even the officers who were skeptical seemed to come around. Tasha smiled. "It's just the beginning. Real change takes time." "There's something else," Chief Roberts said. Officer Miller's lawyer reached out. "Miller wants to apologize to you in person." Tasha's smile faded. She hadn't expected this so soon. "Do you think he's sincere?" she asked. Chief Roberts sighed. "I honestly don't know. He was a good officer before this. Never had complaints. But what he did to you was inexcusable." Tasha thought for a moment. "I'll meet with him, but not alone." The next day, Tasha sat in a conference room at the police station. Chief Roberts sat beside her. The door opened, and Officer Miller walked in with his lawyer. Miller looked different now. His uniform was gone. He wore regular clothes. He looked smaller somehow, less sure of himself. "Ms. Washington," he said, his voice quiet. "Thank you for agreeing to see me." Tasha just nodded, waiting. "I want to apologize for my actions that night. There's no excuse for what I did. I was wrong." His voice shook slightly. "Why did you do it?" Tasha asked. Miller looked down at his hands. "I was angry. Not at you specifically. I was angry about a lot of things. My divorce, being passed over for promotion, working in a neighborhood where I felt unwelcome." He looked up at her. "But none of that excuses what I did. I took my anger out on you, and that was wrong." Tasha studied his face. She had learned to read people well during her years as a SEAL. Her life had often depended on knowing who was telling the truth. "I accept your apology," she said finally. "But words are easy. Real change is hard." Miller nodded. "I know. I want to change. I don't want to be that person in the video." Tasha looked at Chief Roberts, then back at Miller. "I have a proposal," she said. "Instead of being fired, you take a 6-month unpaid suspension. During that time, you help me develop the training program. You become an example of both what went wrong and how to make it right." Miller looked stunned. His lawyer started to speak, but Miller stopped him. "Why would you give me this chance?" he asked Tasha. "Because," Tasha said, "sometimes the people who made the biggest mistakes have the most to teach others." 2 months passed. The training program was growing. Police officers from other cities came to learn. Newspapers wrote stories about it. TV shows wanted to interview Tasha. Officer Miller, now just called James by everyone, worked hard. At first, many officers avoided him. They were angry about how his actions made all police look bad. But slowly things changed. James shared his story at the beginning of each new training group. He didn't make excuses. He told the truth about his anger and his mistake. "I forgot the most important part of my job that night," he would say. "I forgot that my job is to protect and serve everyone, not just people who look like me or live where I live." Tasha watched him change day by day. The angry man who had slapped her was becoming someone new, someone better. One day after training, Tasha found James sitting alone, looking at his phone. "Everything okay?" she asked. He showed her his phone. It was a message from his ex-wife. "She says our daughter saw me on TV. She wants to know if she can visit me this weekend." His voice was full of emotion. "I haven't seen my daughter in almost a year." Tasha sat down beside him. "That's wonderful news, James. I don't know if I'm ready," he admitted. "What if she asks about what happened? What do I tell her?" "Tell her the truth," Tasha said. "That you made a mistake. That you're working hard to be better." James nodded slowly. "I never thought something so bad would lead to something good. I'm a better person now than I was before that night." Tasha smiled. "That's how life works sometimes. Our worst moments can become turning points." The next week brought a new challenge. A senator was visiting their city. He wanted to see the training program that everyone was talking about. Mayor Wilson was nervous. "This is a big opportunity," she told Tasha. "If the senator likes what he sees, he might support making this program national." On the day of the visit, everything was ready. The training center was clean and organized. The officers were in their best uniforms. Tasha wore her Navy uniform for the first time since starting the program. The senator arrived with cameras following him. He shook hands with Mayor Wilson and Chief Roberts. Then he turned to Tasha. "Ms. Washington, I've heard remarkable things about your program," he said. Cameras flashed as they shook hands. "Thank you, Senator. But it's not my program. It belongs to everyone who works here." The senator nodded politely, but Tasha could tell he was more interested in the cameras than her words. Then James stepped forward. "Senator, if you have time, I'd like to share my part of this story." The senator looked confused. Mayor Wilson quickly explained who James was. The senator's eyes widened with interest. The officer from the video. "Yes, I'd very much like to hear from you." For the next 10 minutes, James spoke honestly about the night of the incident, about his anger and his poor choices, about how Tasha could have pressed charges but instead offered him a chance to help others learn. The cameras, which had been focused on the senator, now turned to James. His words were real and powerful. Even the reporters seemed moved. When James finished, the senator was quiet for a moment. "Mr. Miller, that's quite a journey you've been on," he finally said. "I came here thinking this was a nice local program. Now I see it's much more. This is about real change from the inside out." That evening, the news showed the senator announcing a plan to fund similar programs across the country. The headline read, "From viral video to national reform." Tasha watched the news at home, feeling proud but also tired. Her phone rang. It was her old commander from the Navy. "Washington, you've done something remarkable there," he said. "The Pentagon is interested in your training methods. They want you to consider coming back as a special instructor." Tasha was surprised. Going back to the Navy had never been her plan. "I need some time to think about it," she told him. After hanging up, she sat quietly, thinking about how one moment had changed so many lives, including her own. Tasha couldn't sleep that night. The offer to return to the Navy kept her awake. She made tea and sat by her window, thinking about her choices. The training program was doing well. In just 2 months, reports of police use of force had gone down by 30% in their city. Officers were learning to stay calm, to talk first, to use force only as a last option. James had become a key part of the program. His story touched people in a way Tasha's couldn't. He spoke from the place of having made a terrible mistake and finding a way to make things right. Her phone buzzed with a text. It was from James. "My daughter visited today. She said she's proud of me. I've never felt better in my life. Thank you for giving me this chance." Tasha smiled at the message. This was why she had started the program. To create real change. To help people be better. The next morning, she called her old commander. "I'm honored by the offer," she told him. "But my work here isn't finished. I need to stay, at least for now." Her commander understood. The offer will stay open. What you're doing there matters too. Later that day, Tasha met with Mayor Wilson and Chief Roberts. They had news. The governor called this morning. Mayor Wilson said, her voice excited. He wants to make your training program the standard for every police department in the state. Chief Roberts nodded. And that's not all. 3 major cities have reached out. They want to send officers here to learn from you. Tasha took a deep breath. This is growing faster than I expected. Too fast? Chief Roberts asked. No, Tasha said after thinking for a moment. But we need help. I can't train everyone myself. Mayor Wilson smiled. We thought about that. We want to create a team of trainers. Officers who complete your program and show the right skills can become trainers themselves. James should be the first, Tasha said without hesitation. Chief Roberts looked unsure. He's still technically suspended. That ends in 4 months, Tasha reminded him. And no one understands the importance of this training better than he does. After some discussion, they agreed. James would become the first officer trainer in the program. When Tasha told James, he couldn't believe it. Me? A trainer? Are you sure? I've never been more sure, Tasha said. You've changed, James. You understand both sides of this story. That makes you the perfect teacher. 2 weeks later, they held a special ceremony. 20 officers graduated from the first complete training program. They received special badges that showed they had completed the Washington Protocol, as people were calling it now. James stood with the graduates, though his badge was different. It identified him as a trainer. His daughter sat in the front row, clapping loudly when he received his badge. After the ceremony, a woman approached Tasha. She wore an expensive suit and carried a leather briefcase. Ms. Washington, I'm Linda Chen from Pacific Publishing. We're interested in having you write a book about your experience and your training program. Tasha was surprised. A book? I've never thought about writing a book. Linda smiled. Your story is powerful. From Navy SEAL to nurse to changing police training across the country. People want to hear it. I need to think about it, Tasha said. That evening, she talked with James about the book offer. You should do it, he said. Your method should be shared as widely as possible. It's not just my story, though, Tasha said. It's yours, too, and all the officers who have embraced this training. James thought for a moment. Then maybe it shouldn't be just your book. Maybe we should write it together. Tasha considered this idea. A book from both perspectives. The officer who made a mistake and the person he hurt. How we both found a better way forward. Exactly, James said. It would show that change is possible. That one bad moment doesn't have to define a person forever. As they talked about the book, Tasha realized how far they had come from that night on the street. From enemies to colleagues, maybe even to friends. Let's do it, she decided. Let's write the book together. The next day, they called Linda Chen and proposed their idea. She loved it. This is even better than what I had in mind, she said. 2 perspectives, 1 story. It's perfect. As news of the book spread, media interest in the program grew even more. Requests for interviews came daily. Police departments from across the country called. What had started as one bad night was becoming a movement for positive change. And Tasha and James were at the center of it all. 4 months later, their book was finished. It was called The Slap That Changed Everything. The publisher planned a big launch with a national book tour. On the day before the book release, Tasha and James sat for an interview with a famous TV host. Millions of people would watch. I'm nervous, James admitted as they waited backstage. What if people still see me as the bad guy in this story? Tasha straightened his tie. You're not the same person you were that night. People will see that. The interview began. The host asked tough questions. She showed the video of the incident, which was still painful for both of them to watch. Officer Miller, the host said, using his title even though he had been a trainer for months now, many people believe you got off easy. that you should have lost your job permanently. How do you respond to that? James took a deep breath before answering. They're right to question it. What I did was wrong. In many ways, I've been given a second chance I didn't deserve. He looked at Tasha, but Ms. Washington showed me something important. She showed me that justice isn't just about punishment. Sometimes it's about making things better for everyone. I've worked every day to earn the second chance she gave me. The host turned to Tasha. And you, Ms. Washington. You went from being a victim of police misconduct to partnering with the very officer who assaulted you. Many people in the Black community have criticized this decision. They say you're excusing bad behavior. Tasha nodded. She had heard this criticism before. I understand those concerns, but I didn't excuse what happened. I chose to channel my anger into making real change. Officer Miller has faced consequences. He's served his suspension. He's admitted his mistake publicly countless times. And together, we've helped train over 500 officers in better methods. The host looked at both of them. Your book discusses the Washington Protocol in detail. Can you explain the basic idea for our viewers? Tasha explained the three main principles: stay calm under pressure, see the whole person, and use words before actions. These aren't just rules for police, she said. These are rules for life, for how we all treat each other. James added, when I lost my temper that night, I wasn't seeing Ms. Washington as a whole person. I was seeing her through my own anger and prejudice. The training teaches us to pause, to breathe, to really see who is in front of us. When the interview ended, their phones were full of messages. The early response was positive. People were moved by their story of redemption and change. The book tour was exhausting but rewarding. They traveled to 20 cities in 30 days. Everywhere they went, people lined up to meet them and get their books signed. In Chicago, a woman waited until the end of the line to speak with them. My son was killed by police 5 years ago, she told them, her voice breaking. He was unarmed. The officer said he felt threatened. Tasha and James listened quietly as she shared her pain. I came here ready to be angry with you, she told James, to tell you that you didn't deserve a second chance. She wiped tears from her eyes. But hearing you speak today changed my mind. You're using your mistake to prevent other tragedies. That matters to me. She turned to Tasha. And you could have stayed angry. Instead, you built something positive. I want to help. I want to share my son's story as part of your training. By the end of the book tour, they had collected dozens of such stories. People who had experienced police misconduct, police officers who wanted to do better, family members who had lost loved ones. Back home, Tasha suggested they expand the training to include these stories. Real experiences have power, she told James. They help officers understand the human impact of their actions. James agreed. We should create a panel of community members who can speak to the officers during training. People who have been affected by police actions, good and bad. Their book became a bestseller. Police departments across the country adopted the Washington Protocol. The program grew beyond what either of them had imagined. One evening, as they finished a long day of training, James asked Tasha a question that had been on his mind. Do you ever regret not pressing charges against me, not letting me face the full consequences? Tasha thought carefully before answering. Sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice, but then I look at everything that's happened since. Hundreds of officers trained, policies changed, a book that's reaching even more people. She smiled at him. I think we found a better kind of justice, one that heals instead of just punishes. James nodded. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of the chance you gave me. Officer Ryan Davis sat in the back row during training, arms crossed. While other officers practiced breathing techniques, he barely tried. When they discussed seeing the whole person, he rolled his eyes. Tasha noticed his attitude but didn't call him out publicly. Instead, after class, she asked him to stay behind. Officer Davis, you seem to have concerns about the training, she said once they were alone. No disrespect, Mom. he said, though his tone suggested otherwise. But I've been on the streets for 7 years. I know how to handle myself. I'm sure you do, Tasha said calmly. May I ask why your supervisor sent you here? Officer Davis looked away. Some people complained. They were resisting arrest. I had to use force. How many complaints? Tasha asked. 5 in the last year, he admitted. But I patrol a rough area. Tasha nodded. I understand. The streets can be dangerous. But our job is to make them less dangerous, not more. Officer Davis stood up, annoyed. Look, I'll finish your course because I have to. But this soft approach won't work where I patrol. After he left, James came in. He had overheard the conversation. He reminds me of myself, James said quietly. All that anger just waiting to explode. Tasha agreed. He's resistant to everything we're teaching. I'm worried he'll hurt someone. Or himself, James added. That's the path I was on before that night with you. Over the next few days, they both paid special attention to Officer Davis. He went through the motions but never truly engaged with the training. His body was present, but his mind was closed. On the final day of training, Tasha ran a simulation. Officers had to respond to a scene where a man was acting erratically, possibly on drugs. They needed to secure the area while keeping everyone safe. Officer Davis volunteered to go first. In the simulation, he immediately approached the actor playing the suspect and used aggressive language. Get on the ground now, he shouted, hand on his training weapon. The actor, following the script, became more agitated. He shouted back and made sudden movements. Officer Davis drew his training weapon. I said get down. Before the situation could escalate further, Tasha stopped the simulation. Officer Davis, let's discuss your approach, she said. What was your goal in this situation? To control the suspect and secure the scene, he answered. And did your actions make the situation more or less volatile? Davis shrugged. Sometimes you need to show force to gain compliance. Tasha looked around the room at the other officers. What do others think? Were there alternative approaches? Several officers suggested starting with a calmer tone, keeping more distance, and calling for backup before engaging. Officer Davis listened but didn't seem convinced. When the day ended, he left quickly without speaking to anyone. That night, Tasha couldn't sleep. She was worried about Officer Davis returning to patrol without really changing his approach. The next morning, she called his supervisor, Sergeant Martinez. I'm concerned about Officer Davis, she told him. He completed the training, but he didn't embrace it. I don't think he's ready to return to regular patrol. Sergeant Martinez sighed. I had a feeling. He's a good officer in many ways, but his temper has been a problem. What do you suggest? Partner him with someone who has completed our advanced training, someone calm who can model better approaches. The sergeant agreed to try this approach. 2 nights later, Tasha was at home when her phone rang. It was James. Turn on the news, he said, his voice urgent. Tasha turned on her TV to see breaking news. There had been an officer-involved shooting. The officer's name had not been released, but the location was in Officer Davis's patrol area. Please don't let it be him, Tasha whispered. An hour later, Chief Roberts called to confirm their fears. Officer Davis had shot a teenager who was running away from a suspected shoplifting. The boy was in critical condition. Davis says the boy had a gun, Chief Roberts told them. But no weapon has been found yet. Tasha felt sick. Their program had failed to reach Officer Davis, and now a boy might die because of it. I should have done more, she told James when he came over. I knew he wasn't ready to be back on patrol. James shook his head. You did everything you could. You even called his supervisor. Some people aren't ready to change. The next few days were a blur of meetings and press conferences. The shooting threatened to undo all the progress they had made. People questioned whether the Washington Protocol really worked. The injured boy, Marcus Taylor, survived but was paralyzed from the waist down. He was 15 years old and had been running because he was afraid, not because he had done anything wrong. When the body camera footage was released, it showed Officer Davis shouting at Marcus to stop, then firing when the boy kept running. There was no gun, no threat, just a scared teenager. Tasha asked to meet with Marcus and his family at the hospital. She didn't know if they would agree, but she had to try. To her surprise, they said yes. Tasha stood outside Marcus Taylor's hospital room, her heart heavy. James waited in the hallway. They had agreed he should stay back at first, since seeing a police officer might upset the family. "You can do this," James said softly. Tasha knocked and entered the room. Marcus lay in bed, tubes and monitors connected to his thin body. His mother sat beside him, holding his hand. His father stood by the window, his face tired and angry. "Thank you for agreeing to see me," Tasha said. "I'm Tasha Washington." "We know who you are," Mrs. Taylor said. "We've seen you on TV with your program." Mr. Taylor turned from the window. "A lot of good that did my son." Tasha didn't defend herself or the program. "You're right to be angry. What happened to Marcus is unforgivable." She looked at the boy in the bed. He seemed so young. "Marcus, I'm so sorry this happened to you." Marcus spoke for the first time, his voice weak. "That officer, he didn't even give me a chance to stop. He just started yelling, and then he shot me." Tasha moved closer to the bed. "Officer Davis failed you. The system failed you, and in some ways, I failed you too." Mrs. Taylor looked surprised at this admission. "Officer Davis went through our training program," Tasha explained, "but he didn't really change. I knew he wasn't ready to be back on patrol, but I couldn't stop it from happening." "So why are you here?" Mr. Taylor asked. "First, to tell you how sorry I am," Tasha said, "and second, to ask for your help." The room was quiet. No one had expected this. "My help?" Marcus asked. Tasha nodded. "What happened to you shows that our training program isn't enough. We need to do more. And we need to include the voices of people who have been hurt by police actions." She explained her idea. Marcus and his family could help shape a new, stronger version of the program. Their story could help officers understand the real human cost of poor decisions. "Why would we help the people who hurt our son?" Mrs. Taylor asked. "Not to help them," Tasha said. "To help the next child who might be in Marcus' position. To make sure this doesn't happen again." Before they could answer, there was a knock at the door. James entered slowly, not wearing his police uniform. "This is James Miller," Tasha introduced him. "He's part of our training program." Mr. Taylor recognized him immediately. "You're the officer from that video. The one who hit her." James nodded. "Yes, sir. I made a terrible mistake. I was given a second chance that I didn't deserve." He looked at Marcus. "Officer Davis doesn't deserve a second chance. What he did was worse than what I did. But the other officers out there, the ones who haven't made those mistakes yet, they need to hear your story." The family was silent, considering their words. Finally, Marcus spoke. "I'll never walk again. The doctor told me yesterday." Tears filled everyone's eyes. "Nothing can fix that," Marcus continued. "But maybe my story can stop it from happening to someone else's kid." Over the next few weeks, as Marcus recovered enough to leave the hospital, Tasha worked with the Taylor family to create a new component of the training program. They called it Real Consequences. Officers would hear directly from people affected by police actions, not just Marcus, but others who had both positive and negative experiences with law enforcement. Chief Roberts fully supported the expanded program. "This is exactly what we need," he told Tasha. "Officers need to understand that their actions have lasting impacts on real people." Officer Davis was arrested and charged with assault. The police department issued a formal apology to the Taylor family and agreed to cover all of Marcus's medical expenses. 6 months later, Tasha stood on a stage at a national police conference. Behind her sat James, Marcus in his wheelchair, and representatives from 20 police departments across the country. "The Washington Protocol is not perfect," she told the audience of police chiefs and trainers. "We learned it the hard way. But we are committed to making it better every day. She explained how the program had evolved, how they now required psychological evaluations before officers returned to patrol, how they included community voices in every phase of training. This work is difficult, she said. It requires us to be honest about mistakes and open to change. But the results speak for themselves. She shared the statistics. In departments using the full protocol, use of force incidents had decreased by 60%. Civilian complaints were down. Officer injuries were down too. After her speech, a young officer approached her. "Ms. Washington," he said, "your program saved my life last month. I was in a situation that was getting out of control. I remembered my training. I took that breath. I saw the person in front of me, not just the threat. We both walked away safely." Stories like this came to Tasha almost daily now. For every Officer Davis, there were hundreds of officers who embraced the training and used it to make better decisions. That evening, Tasha, James, and Marcus had dinner together. They had become an unlikely family of sorts, bound by tragedy and hope. "I never thought my life would turn out this way," Marcus said. "But I'm making a difference. People listen to me." James nodded. "Your story has changed more officers than you know." Tasha looked at them both. The man who had once struck her in anger. The boy who had been shot by an officer who hadn't learned to control his fear. "We can't change the past," she said, "but together, we're changing the future." As they ate, Tasha's phone buzzed with a message. Another police department wanted to adopt the Washington Protocol. Another chance to make a difference. The work would never be finished, but every officer trained, every incident prevented, every life saved or changed for the better made it worthwhile. What had started with a single slap on a dark street had become a movement. Pain had led to purpose, and in that purpose, they had all found healing.